The NFL draft begins Thursday, and this is CBS Sports' latest mock draft. Seems unanimous that the Browns will take pass rusher Myles Garrett out of Texas A&M first overall. After that, it's really anybody's guess. They have 49ers taking Stanford defensive end Solomon Thomas second overall. But by Thursday, General Manager John Lynch had hinted at trading back.
As I've said, we're open for business. We'll listen to anything, but I've always said you don't like being in 2 and 14, but you like having the second pick because I think it puts you in the driver's seat. A lot of options at your disposal, and we'll explore every single one of them.
Well, let's face it, Bill Walsh famous for trading back and building up a surplus of picks. Alongside his Cam Inman, we're going to talk 49er drafts right now, Bay Area News Group. So, Cam, how is the structure of the war room going to work? Obviously, there's John Lynch, but there's also Adam Peters, and then there's Kyle Shanahan. Who is the general, and the person not the general, who will have the most influence with the guy making the decision?
Well, I think, first of all, that it is a whole different scenario because the Niners have had Trent Baalke run the last 7 drafts, and he's gone. John Lynch is in his place. But this really is a coach-oriented team, in my point of view. I think Kyle Shanahan came in. Obviously, he's the one that picked John Lynch to be the general manager, essentially. And I think it's basically going to be Kyle Shanahan somewhat running it. Every team is going to say we work it as a partnership. The coach, we have to work together, and I think they will. Lynch's contract, I believe, he can control the draft and the 90-man roster, but he's not going to do that without Kyle's serious input. So I would think whatever Kyle wants is what Kyle's going to get as they start building this team.
I assume Adam Peters didn't leave Denver unless he was going to have a little bit more say, a little bit more influence onto how the structure of the team works. Is that true? And
well, I think Adam Peters did such a great job in Denver. There was nowhere for him to go up in Denver in their hierarchy. And John Lynch, obviously, he knew him from time in Denver. And Adam Peters, he's a Cupertino guy, grew up in Cupertino.
Excellent.
Went to Monte Vista High School, as did I. And anyhow, but he knows the draft. He's studied all these colleges for years and years and years. So he's going to have a great influence on what John Lynch asks of college prospects because he knows them a lot more than John Lynch and the scouting department does because John just got into this like 3 months ago. 3 months ago, he was doing TV.
Okay, you heard Lynch talking about possibly trading down. It really all depends on demand. Yeah. After Myles Garrett,
right,
it's a crapshoot.
Correct.
And given that knowledge, what demand is there for the number 2?
Well, here's the thing. What usually goes 1 and 2 in drafts is quarterbacks, right? Well, the reason everybody figures it's wide open is the 49ers need a quarterback, but there's not really a consensus top quarterback, right? The guy that a lot of people are looking at is Mitchell Trubisky, only at 13 starts. Deshaun Watson wins the national championship, but there's questions on how he might adapt to the NFL. So if one of those guys, or maybe somebody else, a team falls in love with and says, we have to get them, the Chicago Bears need a quarterback too, okay? There's about 4 or 5 teams that do. So that, John Lynch you've heard him a couple times in the last couple months say, the quarterback market is not as bad as it seems. These are very good prospects. So he might be telling the truth in that. He might be trying to drive up a trade market for somebody to come up and get a quarterback.
What's your gut feeling here?
On what he desperately, I think, unless they've fallen in love with somebody that we don't really know, I think they absolutely want to trade out because they have so many needs to fill on this team. And if there's not a top consensus number 2 guy, I don't see them. You're gonna have to just take whoever you think is best.
Yeah, I agree. We all know the quarterback. There's no really quarterback that fits that number 2 slot.
As far as we know. I mean, it's Shanahan's system. What fits a Shanahan system? And a lot of these guys in college are coming out of spread offenses, which it's all projection.
Okay, so let's get to the perfect fit.
Yeah.
Of the quarterbacks, which one fits?
Well, from what people are talking about, Trubisky might fit, but he has such a small sample size. He went 8 and 5 in his only time as a starter. I try to give guys a lot of credit for how they perform on a big stage. Deshaun Watson beat Alabama in the national championship game. All that's good. I think it really comes down to, can Kyle Shanahan get a guy in a room and say, do you understand the X's and O's and what I want in play? Can you repeat it verbatim? Because in his system, you have to know that stuff. Matt Ryan, it took him 2 years to. Okay. He got them to the Super Bowl that way.
Solomon Thomas seems to be in the mock draft coming up at number 2 for 49ers. It's actually one of the rare positions on the 49er D-line that they look pretty good, assuming the last two guys out of Oregon pan out. But they need help at other positions. Are you sold on Solomon Thomas?
I think Solomon Thomas is going to be a great pro, and I like him. He's a kind of a hybrid guy. He can go inside or outside. I don't see him as a fit for the 49ers. Like you said, they've spent their top pick in the last two drafts on defensive ends out of Oregon, and Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner. So it is, you want to go 3 years in a row at one position, you're the Detroit Lions with the wide receivers, right? People make that comparison. They do need a lot of help on defense because they had probably the worst defense in franchise history last year. But you have younger guys. That's what they were growing up. There's so many other needs on this team. I'm with you on that I would pass on Solomon Thomas. The Bears might like him. I'm a big Fangio, the Bears defensive coordinator. He knows Solomon Thomas well. He would probably love him. Yeah,
you need help at receiver, cornerback, O-line. I mean, it just goes on and on. So I agree. Maybe the smartest thing is to trade down, but it really comes down to how much do people want that number 2 pick. And we'll find out what kind of talent evaluators these guys are. You feel good about these guys?
I do, and I think that they're not just coming in here wet behind the ears. They've been around the league for a long time, but if they do trade out, you know, when the Eagles traded up to get it number 2 last year, they had to give up so much. I don't think the Niners are going to be able to get that kind of ransom like teams in the past are because there's not a legit 2.
Agreed. Okay, Thursday night, the NFL draft for the San Francisco 49ers. Cam, you'll be there. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks, Dennis.